In today's Leeds news, Dortmund Gray interest, Aaronson doesn't want Leeds return, Leeds eyes Sunderland goalkeeper, and Summerville Price Tag revealed. Morning folks, Jay here at The View on Tuesday the 9th of April with your Leeds United news. Game day for Leeds United, big game tonight in Elland Road. Leeds looking to get 6 points from the next 2 home games and continue their unbeaten record at Elland Road. It's a huge one, it'll just settle the nerves a little bit if Leeds can get a result as well. Also myself and Andrew Dalton did a preview to the match last night on the channel. You can check that out. I'll link it at the end of the video, but you can also check it out on the live tab on the channel if you wish to do so. We'll crack on and we will get into the news. There's a little bit on potential incomings around certain positions, some rumours around players that are currently at Leeds, and then some extensions to players that are not at Leeds and could stay away from Leeds in the summer. So we'll get into that. We'll start off with the Dortmund situation and news coming out of Germany. According to the Sun's Alan Nixon, he states that Bundesliga giants Borussia Dortmund have set their sights on Archie Gray for a summer move in the coming window. Nixon, in his weekly Patreon bulletin, says that Dortmund see Archie Gray in a similar capacity to the Jude Bellingham situation when they took him from Birmingham and would like to replicate that move if possible. In the piece, Nixon says that Dortmund would be willing to pay a high fee for the player should they decide to make the move, in order to get Leeds to consider selling the player. Unlike Birmingham's situation when they took Bellingham, Leeds are not in a financial crisis or tight around finances and don't necessarily need the money, and are unlikely wanting to sell Gray at this stage of his career and his development. Gray himself has stated on multiple occasions that his desire is to return to the Premier League with Leeds United and help to build Leeds in the future, and hopefully win a Ballon d'Or and Champions League title with Leeds United in the process, which would be great to see for everybody involved in this. The key points on this from a Dortmund perspective is Dortmund do see that Leeds would look for a very high fee for the player and be willing to pay that fee in order to get Leeds to consider moving the player out away from the club over to Dortmund. It'll be a tough one. There's lots and lots of interest already. We've talked about Liverpool's interest previously this season in Archie Gray and his brother Harry as well. There's a lot of interest in Gray, and it's not going to go away. It's just going to get louder. As I said before, if Leeds can get out of the Championship, that starts to go away and that noise starts to die down a little bit, so fingers crossed. But thought I'd keep up to date on that one. Moving on, let's talk about a player that's away from Leeds United at the moment and wants to stay away from Leeds United, according to lots of reports. Brendan Aaronson has had a very up and down season this year for Union Berlin on his loan. During the loan spell, he has been predominantly a substitute in the first half of the season. He has started to start more games in the second half of the season, but isn't finishing matches. Is usually getting around 67 minutes before he's withdrawn from the game. He's got 2 goals and no assists this season for Union Berlin, and there are question marks around his future at that club. And with Leeds looking at a possible return to the Premier League, there is question marks around whether the decision will even be in his hands come this summer. Speaking to Get Football News in Germany, Aaronson has said that he sees himself remaining at Union Berlin next season and has complimented the club, saying it's an amazing club. He's talked about the fans, he's talked about the structure of the club and what they've done for him and his family. And he said he has a lot of respect for the club. He went on to say that for him, it's about making the right decision in the summer, to sit back, evaluate the year and make the right decision. He said staying at Union Berlin is an option, but that he can't say much more than that right now. He did go on to say that he has been keeping an eye on Leeds' fortunes this season and wishes them all the best. He's got some friends at Leeds still that he keeps in contact with and thinks Leeds will have some amazing things waiting for them should they get promoted at the end of this season. The fee will be the big thing. Leeds have already said that they are willing to look at selling Aaronson and maybe potentially even making a loss on him that they can probably make up with other player sales in the summer as well. But the question will be whether Union Berlin see Aaronson at the same valuation as Leeds. He has been a rotational player for them this season. When he has started games, he has been withdrawn, and when he has been on the bench, he's come on the odd time and has been an unused substitute at times as well, and has a tricky first season in the Bundesliga, similar to the tricky first season with Leeds in the Premier League, and maybe he needs a bit of time in these clubs before he can settle into a rhythm, get a first season or two under the belt. We've seen it with lots of players who, especially in the Premier League, come in, don't do well in the first or second season and then build and eventually get better over time. I keep going back to Almiron and Joe Linton at Newcastle, who struggled for the first 2 seasons they they before they really start to make a mark on the Premier Division, so it can take time. But Aaronson himself, in an ideal situation, would see himself remaining at Union Berlin. I think a lot of Leeds fans would also hope for that as well. One of many 8 of the exiles that are currently away from the club that I think Leeds would be happy to see the back of in the summer. The also talked to the side note about Rasmus Christensen returning to Elland Road. He is back in the Roma squad after his injury, but there is talk about him potentially going back to Leeds, and Leeds looking to sell him at the nearest opportunity that they can get. Moving on and looking at potential incoming in the summer, and a lot of people will always ask the question about Leeds United goalkeeping situation. Some people like Guillaume Meslier and some people don't. That's just football, that's just opinions, that's just the way it is. The Leeds are said though to be keeping a keen eye on Sunderland's goalkeeper Anthony Patterson. They'll get a proper chance to have a close-up look at him tonight as well, but if they do decide to make a move for the goalkeeper in the summer, they will likely face competition. Liverpool and Arsenal are said to be very interested in the player as well and have been watching Patterson in recent weeks. Patterson has started all 41 of Sunderland's games in the campaign so far this season, and the 23-year-old also got called up to the England under-21 side this year, where he made his under-21 debut. Leicester were also name-checked as a club who were interested in Patterson earlier in the season, but may now be in a situation where that doesn't happen. Leicester's financial situation, a transfer embargo, and a potential points deduction, and a need to sell players coming into the summer may all factor into removing Leicester from the equation. From an Arsenal Liverpool perspective, Patterson will be seen as coming in as a backup goalkeeper initially to give them cover in those positions. With Leeds, he could be possibly coming in to compete for the number 1 shirt. So from Patterson's perspective, if he backs himself, he may look at Leeds as an opportunity to play first choice football for a large team, or potentially, hopefully, playing the Premier League with Leeds United as well. But it's one they're keeping an eye on. The fee hasn't been revealed at this point, and there's no noise around a definite move for the player just yet, but it is saying that Leeds have been monitoring the keeper, have been keeping an eye on him, and like the keeper in what they've seen so far from him. So more to come on that one as and when we get it. And then moving on today, finally, to finish up, the Crysencio Somerville saga continues to rumble on in the background, and we said this would keep happening and would increase in volume the closer we got to the summer transfer window. Leeds have apparently slapped a £45 million price tag on Somerville's head in order to keep the Wolves away from the door. There has been increasing interest in Chris Somerville across the European leagues, with Atletico Madrid recently name-checked as being very interested, and the noise around Atletico Madrid and Chris Somerville is getting louder and louder in Spain by the day. AC Milan have also been said to be interested in the player as a potential replacement for Rafael Leao should he head to PSG this summer, and would have the finances to do so should they be able to make that move. Newcastle and West Ham have also been said to be interested in the player from an English perspective as well. All parties said to be interested in the player, but whether they can afford the fee that Leeds have put on the player's head remains to be seen. Somerville has 18 goals and 8 assists for Leeds this season, has been in incredible form. He's had a couple of dry periods this year, but from a winger's perspective, and moving him to an inverted winger seems to have paid dividends for Daniel Farke and for Leeds United, as well as he has been a mainstay and a keystone in what Leeds United have done from an attacking perspective so far this season. Slightly off his game at the weekend against Coventry. Leeds will hope that he can bounce back to being his normal best coming into tonight's game against Sunderland, and then into the weekend's game coming up as well. Leeds will have to get all their players firing on all cylinders, but will have to expect interest in these players, given the fact that it is very much a 3-horse race for the 2 automatic spots. And while Leeds are out of it, these noises will get louder. If Leeds can get into the Premier Division, a lot of this goes away pretty quickly, because these teams can offer Somerville what Leeds can't. That's either European football or Premier League football or top flight football, which the player will want eventually. He seems very happy at Leeds. He seems to be enjoying the atmosphere at Elland Road and the adoration of the fans on a regular basis. So that might be enough to keep the Wolves away. He's said to be very happy at Leeds at the moment, so long may that continue for the player as well. But there is going to be consistent noise and interest. It's interesting to see that the likes of teams like Everton and Burnley are now no longer being mentioned with the player. It's now clubs like Atletico Madrid, AC Milan, Newcastle, are now being talked about as the teams that are interested in a much higher quality of team, but also potentially higher revenue as well. And the fact that Leeds have put a £45 million price tag on his head says everything that Leeds feel about the player out loud. Folks, that's going to be it for me today. Massive thanks as always for supporting the channel. There's a little subscribe button down below me there. You can press that if you want to subscribe to the channel. And there is a video over here or over here somewhere. I can never get that right, but it's there. And that's the matchday preview from last night's video. Myself and Andrew Dalton going through the team news, the form guide, and our thoughts on coming into tonight's game. So you can check that out if you want to. I'll be back tomorrow morning for more Leeds news. Have a great day. Fingers crossed for 3 points, and I'll talk to you then. See ya. Bye.